Okay. Okay, good evening, everyone. Let's call court back into session. I believe we would need to go to, do you want to kind of frame up the meeting today, what we need to cover?
Sure. So we just have some remaining items to cover. There's some personnel issues. We need to go back to the HR position that was discussed yesterday. We need to revisit the sheriff's office positions. They have some additional information to provide you. And then there's one little matter to go back to on the treasurer position that you talked about yesterday.
Okay.
We have some economic development matters that we need to clear up. And then a couple things also to clear up on capital outlay. And then we'll just kind of talk through our next steps next week, moving into the end of August.
Okay, good. All right. I guess it doesn't matter. We can go ahead with the sheriff's department.
Sure.
Since they're here. And so whoever's presenting want to come forward. Want to welcome the sheriff and the chief.
Good.
Good morning or afternoon now.
Afternoon, yeah.
Days flying by.
Yes, sir.
We want to start with thank you for letting us come back and talk to you about our positions. Dave is going to present most of this. If you have any questions, I'll be here to help with those questions if needed.
So what we would like to revisit with the court are some of the jail positions that we had asked for in the upcoming FY21 budget that were placed on placeholder. Those positions specifically would be the laundry position, the utility position, jailer sergeant, investigator 1, investigator 2 for the jail. These are not 2,200 positions. First and foremost, we'd like to withdraw our request in its entirety for the game room investigator. We realize there's been some contention on that. We want to withdraw that request, and what we're going to do is gather some statistical information on that and come back to the court with a better, more fleshed out understanding of how that process is going to work.
Okay.
And what's going to happen with that. But what we would like to reiterate to the court is that the positions in the jail are vital positions, and we would like for those positions to be funded. When we took this facility over, the court understood, and so did we, that this was a very fluid and dynamic situation to just have this amount of employees in this facility and the things that come along with it, just jump into it like we did. We made the court quite a few promises that we would maintain our budget and that we would do our best to operate that facility at the same standard that we do our Highway 6 facility. And we have kept all of our promises to the court. And when the court asked us last year to cut some positions, we did so because it was much like the game room incident. It was unknown to some extent exactly what we were going to need. We had a good idea, but we didn't know exactly what we would need. And the court said, y'all come back to us if you have any urgent needs and let us know and we will consider those. Those are urgent needs. Those are not wants. Those are not wish list items. Those are urgent needs that we need for that facility. The way the system currently is, you're not going to see a huge uptick in the cost of our overtime because of COVID and the vacation canceling that we've had going on. Next year, that will happen. Those positions are full-time positions that we've had to place people in. There are currently people doing those jobs. So we understand the placeholder, but we don't necessarily feel like that's the best way, although we respect the court on that. On those jail positions, we are very serious. And if the court is amicable to it, we do have, revenue numbers from Jack Harwell. You can speak to the auditor about our overall budget, in which we would stay within budget, and we are. But those positions really drive that overtime number and what it's going to be next year. Our department overall, there were some questions about vacancies, and there's no doubt that we have an uptick in vacancies due to the COVID situation. I think most departments are experiencing longer times to fill and probably more vacancies due to the COVID situation in general. And we're not one of them. We are one of them. But the increase has been marginal to our department. We have been very hard hit. We are very aware of the effects on the community. You need to look no further than the demographics represented within our facility to know that we understand how the community is being affected by the virus, because we are the community and we are affected as well. It has hurt us too with the hiring. When the newspaper puts out statistics that say that 20% of the jail employees are positive for COVID, and our applications that we receive drop markedly after that. We do have that COVID situation in the jail well under control. We have an excellent staff, medical, administrative, and frontline workers. And those individuals are working diligently every day to ensure not only the inmates' safety, but the communities and our own. And these positions are very vital to that mission, not just with COVID, but the overall jail mission and the standard of service that we provide to the community. Recently, especially with the laundry, we are about to start, Major Armstrong had mentioned it, doing laundry more often. And that is just due to not just COVID, but if Major
That's
wants
not due to COVID at all. We had an inmate file a grievance on our laundry procedures, and the jail standard states you only have to do laundry once a week or more if conditions exist where you need to do them more. And we've done them twice a week for years and kind of went with that. But we got a grievance on an individual and talked with our legal representatives, and we discussed it, and they recommended that we start washing 3 times a week our laundry, not due to COVID, but due to some other reasons in that grievance. So that's something else. That's just an increase in what we have to do. And one person can't do that. That's one reason why we really need this laundry officer, because one person just cannot wash 1,100 pieces of clothing 3 times a week.
Nor can we do it in one laundry room. We just don't have the equipment to do it. So we're utilizing both of those laundry rooms. I know there were questions about the vacancies that we had. And what I can tell you is that we have not seen that market increase. I can tell you that the jail and the sheriff's office, of all the employees countywide as far as time to fill, of all the employees within the county who are capped on vacation, 93% of those employees exist within the sheriff's office and jail. We have a very hard job. We have to have entire regulatory agencies. We have to have investigators on staff to investigate matters that occur within the facility, within the jail facility, is how regulated the facility is. And we want to make sure that we are providing, and that speaks to some of the investigators. We have had a 100% increase in all of the services asked for from our investigation team out at the jail. Grievance, disciplinaries, and PREA. In talking to some of the commissioners, they had said, are most of those founded? And the answer to that is some are founded and some are not. But every incident has to be looked into as though it were a 100% legitimate investigation, because we have to provide that level of service to the community and the population that we have out there. They demand it, and we have to provide it. Do y'all have any questions for us? Additional questions?
Kind of back on the U.S. Marshal inmates. We were at a little higher level. It's been a while ago. And it's, I think it's been running around 200 or so.
Yeah,
right?
we were running right around 200. We were at 230 prior to COVID.
Yeah,
So when COVID hit and we sent per jail commission request letters out to the surrounding agencies to limit the amount of misdemeanor arrest, the feds kind of stopped transporting as many into our facility as well. They're ready to go back. We've talked with them, but they're just kind of on hold right now and just doing what they have to do locally.
that could go up. I mean,
Yeah,
there's,
I think it could.
do you have room for 30 or
we
40
have,
more?
yeah, we have room. We still have 300 to 500 empty beds in the facility. Of course, to fill that many beds, we need a lot more staff, but we have room.
And if we do for the court have copies for the members who are present, and we have digital copies for the members that are participating on Zoom, what the revenue has looked like and broken down for the facility every month since October. We're currently sitting at about $5.5 million that we have billed out. And you can see a slight decrease in billing when you come into COVID. But it is not a marked decrease.
No.
You
it's
know,
not.
we are
I've been
still
watching it.
on track to be $7 million worth of revenue this year. And we can provide that to any member of the court that wants it, what we're doing. And these positions are really vital to maintaining that quality of service for the community, for the feds, so that we can continue to expand contracts with them, with Austin and San Antonio, BOP, ICE, all these facilities that are agencies that want to house with us. And we feel that those positions are not placeholder positions. We truly feel that those are a necessity, or we would not have asked to come back and speak to y'all. We have not, this is not a joke to us. These are not wish list items. We are here because this is very serious, and we only get this one opportunity a year to really come in and ask for and try to vet our position on new positions. We realize the court has made special circumstances, but we don't want to make a special circumstance out of positions that are necessary now at the middle of next year. We're going to be even further behind at that point. And overtime is going to take a market hit because of it.
Okay, any questions?
Appreciate that. I hear you. Clerk.
So to be clear, it would be these laundry, utility, and then the jail sergeant and the 2 investigators. That kind of where we're,
Correct. That's all for Jack Harwell.
okay.
It's $272,000
Pardon me?
if you take the deputy constable. I'm sorry.
So Haley just kind of sorted those that, so you could just see the ones that originally you had agreed to put a placeholder in for. So taking out that game room corporal, there's 5, 2 jailers, the sergeant, 2 investigators.
Right.
And that's the total.
That's 272.
918 is the salary. There's some equipment needed there, and then
How much
taxes
is the
benefits.
equipment?
17,600.
Okay, I couldn't see it on the side. Oh,
And
yeah.
we're willing to work if the court will give us the positions. I am 99% sure that we can fill those equipment needs from this year's budget to save that cost for the court in the upcoming year.
Take 99% off of that.
We're still in a very fluid situation, Judge. So
Me too.
with COVID,
Yeah, we are too.
yeah, we understand.
Well, we appreciate it and appreciate y'all coming back. And we'll be sure that any of the commissioners have any questions. Okay. All right. Thank y'all.
So do we want to go ahead and get a consensus on these 5 right now, or?
There's another ticket item that I want to see where we're going to go with that before.
Yeah, not in this department, but.
Right, not in this department,
Okay.
but it could alter a number or two
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
All right, good to see you. See you, Chief.
And so unless there's something else I want to go to now, we can continue with personnel.
Yeah.
So we need to go back to the HR position request.
All right.
And is Amanda on the call meeting?
I'm sure. Amanda?
Yes, I'm present.
Okay, just in case. So she presented the need for a position for her office yesterday, and there was discussion on if that was funded, where it would be funded from. So I just wanted to see if you had any other thoughts today, or if you were ready to, again, just have a consensus on what the court felt on that position. And it was an HR specialist. There's the requested budget of $52,677.
After we discussed yesterday, I know that they're getting hammered down there with a lot of activity, and as much as I respected Commissioner Miller yesterday, I've come full circle on I think that we have a position in her office that should be in the health plan, because that's what it should be dedicated to, 100% to the health plan, to helping us maintain our claims. We need an advocate in there for the employee, and that helps us leverage and balance what she does in there. And I would be supportive of putting it in the health plan.
And then replacing the position?
Yes, sir.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
I would agree to that.
What do you mean by replacing the position?
Well, the position would be dedicated primarily to employee health and servicing the employees. Therefore, the funding for that would come out of the health plan. And then she would have a budget available then it's currently in her budget to replace or to add another person without increasing the budget to the HR office.
So the judge and Commissioner Perry, I think you're saying they're good with adding a position, just funding it out of health plan.
Correct.
I'm fine with that too.
So you're going to be funding $102,000 of employees out of the county health plan?
Well,
Said 102. I don't know where that,
Well, he's adding, where'd the rest of it come from?
Well, Rosemary's is like 50 something thousand, and this
Yeah,
is
she's not in.
52.
She's not in there.
Yeah, and so
But she's in the health plan.
a consultant, and so we have a contract with her company, so it's a
We
contract.
changed that last year.
And that does come out of general.
Right.
As I listened to Amanda express what she needed as far as a position, if we're talking about the need to give HR more personnel support past this immediate situation that we have with COVID-19, and that's what it sounds like she's saying. She's saying an expansion of responsibilities in addition to the load that's coming from having to deal with COVID-19, that she needs another person. And if that's the case, if there's a legitimate reason to give her another employee, then I don't think there's a question of does it come from the health insurance plan, or does it come from the general fund? If we need a position, we fund them like we fund all positions, and we pay for it out of the general fund. I'm just philosophically opposed to putting personnel costs in the health insurance fund. I think it skews the analysis that Randy gives us at the end of the year when he talks about claims. And that's why I asked to have Rosemary removed. And I'm glad we did so. If she needs a position, she needs a position. We give her one. If we're looking at that position in line of our contract with Rosemary, then that's a discussion to have separate and apart from the fact that HR needs a person to do what she has expressed she needs that person to do. And I think we need to have that discussion also.
Any other thoughts on that?
I mean, I also don't support funding it out of the healthcare fund.
And I guess taking it in two parts. Number one, what is everyone's feeling on adding, no matter the funding, what is y'all's idea on adding the position?
Well, I would
Increasing.
reverse it. I would say the
Funding.
first decision is based on whether the dedicated individual in HR to employee health, can we fund it out of the health plan? And I think there's a consensus that at least 3 of the Commissioners Court members would agree that that would be fine, because that's what they're doing. That it's not unusual to have administrative or some overhead cost in any kind of administration of something like that. And so it's pretty clear. And that way the taxpayers and the employees share in the cost of that individual. And it's, that many employees, and it's not going to be that impactful financially to them. Plus the county gives us support behind the self-funded plan. Anyway, so that's the first line of defense for that. The second thing is, can she add another employee? And I would say, from what I've been convinced, that the general operations of HR is a very demanding piece, and we should get quality out of that, and I think we are. And so we should benefit as members of the court, and so I would support adding one more individual into that group.
My thought is, and because I hate to vote no against the person based on where we would fund it from, because when I hear Amanda, the position that she's talking about, I could see where there's a need for that. I think if we're talking about truth in taxation, then you let the taxpayers see where positions are. To me, it would create down the road a shell game, and you may not even be able to tell where all of her people are if I were just a member of the public. If we're going to give personnel an increase in personnel to HR, it should reflect in her HR budget. People should be able to look at her budget and see how many people work for her and what their positions are. And so for that reason, I'm just theoretically opposed to putting a position in the health insurance fund. And then I think at some point in time, we're going to have to look and see, especially a year where we're giving the employees a 1% COLA, especially a year where we said we were going to hold off on increases. I think we need to take a serious look at what we do have in our budget that we need and what we don't need. I think the employees and the public will respect us for that. If we're looking at a position and we need to create another position because that position is not functioning, we need to have that discussion and we need to do something about it. We don't need to just piggyback on taxpayers, a position that's not doing what it needs to do, and we're funding it with tax money. So if Amanda needs a person, if we're giving her another staff person, we need to increase her personnel budget. And just like every other department, the amount of people that are working for her need to be reflected so that the public can see that.
And to answer that part of the question, so when you adopt the budget, yes, you're just adopting, of course, the budget for the general fund, not the health insurance fund. That's not in that document. But you do adopt every salary position, the title and the amount. So it would appear in the document. And we have these throughout the budget. It would just show that the funding was elsewhere. So we have a lot of positions that are funded by grant money.
Yeah.
We even have a couple in the jail that are funded by the commissary fund. So we have those listed, and then it shows, it kind of backs off the funding in other areas
Right.
to get back to what's budgeted in the general fund.
Right, okay.
You will see that position in the HR section of the budget.
Yes, ma'am, because as a court, you have to, of course, agree on the general fund budget, but then also agree to the positions and the salaries, no matter what the funding source is.
Yeah, because they would have to report to that department head, even though they may be funded out of the
So
employee
that would
health
be
plan.
very clear in
Yeah,
in
it'd
that
be
document.
transparent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I urge to take one out. I'm not gonna put another one in.
Okay. Commissioner Jones?
So Francis, that is reflected, that this position is reflected in the HR's salary schedule? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, if you approved the addition of the new position, then yes, that would be added into the budget document, the salary schedule. It's just that we know that that funding piece is funded in another fund, not the general fund.
Right. So, I guess, I mean, I think it's already been, let me just make sure it's clear. I propose that we add another position in the HR department. So what's the support for that or the opposition to that?
No, I'm still of the same opinion.
Yeah, okay. Commissioner Jones, are you all right with that?
I'm all right with that. I'm fine either way, honestly, but if it's, I will fund it out of the health plan.
Okay. All right.
So we will add a position to that position listing for that department, and then we'll make sure that that's funded out of the health plan.
And Francis, for clarity, the position that would be funded out of the health plan is the benefit specialist, because that's a position that functions to serve the benefits administration, correct? That's what you would be recording?
That's what, yes, the one that's, I'm sorry, you said benefit specialist, and that was position 1181. We'll move that one over. I misspoke, but yes, so the one that she's already, the current position will move to the health fund. This new one will be in the general fund. So there'll be, like y'all said, a
Okay.
flop of those two.
Okay, because I think that, I don't know if the note is clear there. That's why I asked.
We got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we need to come back to SO positions here in a few minutes, I know, but also on the personnel discussion, and Amanda can help on this topic. There was a position yesterday in the treasurer's office that you decided on a new classification for that position and making it exempt. And then there was also a title change. Amanda, do you have any information on that you could speak on?
To which role? I apologize.
It was, sorry, position 491. So that was the position yesterday that the court agreed to make exempt and change it to an 828.
This is related to the treasurer's office. Just make sure I'm on. I don't have all the position numbers memorized.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Apologize. So when we discussed this in court yesterday, the court made an approval to have the position be classified as an exempt role and to have the position classified in a pay grade A28. We did not make any type of change with regard to the title for this particular role, which was discussed yesterday, but there wasn't a motion to create the change for the title. And then Bill would also like an opportunity to speak with the court. He really advocates strongly that the position be classified as exempt. which the court approved yesterday, but he would like consideration of the court to place the position at a pay grade classification of an A31. Again, Bill is available to speak to the court, but to assist in that communication. He believes that because there are several other chief deputy positions within the county that are at an A30 or A31 level of classification.
Is Bill on?
Yes, I believe he is.
All right, let's let him speak for himself.
Okay. We're talking about the pay grade presently, is that correct?
We're
Or are we
talking
talking about the position title?
the pay
I
grade.
brought up both.
Okay. I do have some things that I need to display. I'm gonna have to figure that out.
We see it, almost.
If you take your mouse to the bottom of this screen, there should be an option to share,
Okay.
and then you should be able to choose which screen you'd like to share.
I don't see the screen yet. Here we go. Okay, these are the A31 positions right here. You can see they are, except for human resources, they are county clerk, district clerk, and tax office. They each one have an A31 position. I'm not, the treasurer's office does not have as many people, but the chief deputy is the administrator of online banking, whereas other chief deputies generally are just users. It is a position that must understand how to use Microsoft Access. The present chief deputy has already taken a full semester college course in it and made an A. I actually have that document if you would like to look at it. Also attached to those documents are all the databases that we have in our office that we use. It creates a lot of additional efficiency and enables us to do things that could not be done with Excel. And I've been using it since about 2001 or 2000. Retiree benefits, we've had it in an Access database since about 2001. It's a very important part of our office. It's complicated. Most people are unwilling to make the sacrifice to learn it. And so I'm just telling you that the position requires a lot of expertise. Now, Danielle has put up the pay grades from yesterday. There's only one A28 in the county. There's 117. We pull these from the payroll system. 117 exempt positions. There's only one A28 that's in juvenile probation. It doesn't have, no connection to chief deputy position work. The administrative assistants at A29s, you see the deputy tax assistant, chief auto. Those would not be right under the elected official, I don't believe, but they would be under another chief deputy. And then we go through those A30s. You see the road and bridge foreman, they are an A30. There's a deputy county clerk chief. I'm sure there's a deputy district clerk as well. But then you come down here to the A31s and you get down into the ones that are right under the elected official.
Does the chief deputy for the county clerk or district clerk, do those two, does your person that you're wanting to consider have the same responsibilities that those do who are A31s?
Yes, she supervises the office, and furthermore has to be able to do all the jobs. And I actually have fairly recently put the jobs that the treasurer does out on the county's website, and it takes Danielle is actually there's a lot, seems to be some misunderstanding of what is a hard job in the treasurer's office. One thing is the hardest job and the most important job is payroll. It takes somebody has to work in payroll for more than a year to get really good at it. Now, investments, that's somewhat sensitive. You don't want to make a mistake, but it's not as hard to learn as investments. And so I'm saying is but to get it all learned requires 3 or 4 years at least. And so so whenever you get somebody and you get them trained, you don't want to lose them. So that's the reason it's worth it to the county, even if you have to pay a little extra to get somebody that's going to stay with you. I would like to, if I can get it done, show you the history for this department, and I hope I don't lose it. The Accountant 1 history, okay. Okay, this goes back to the beginning of the position. There's, I think, 8 names here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, in about 20 years. So 8, so it's about 3 years maybe per person. So I think you can see that the people that had this position don't even have enough time to learn it before they're gone. Now, the job description probably still requires business degree, accounting degree, or suggests it strongly, and we started out trying that. You can see that in the beginning, I hired business degrees or accounting degrees, but it became clear that they weren't going to stay. After they got their training in, they were gone. And I didn't have the ability to raise their pay to keep them here. And one of them, I guess, maybe one of the commissioners, 2 of the commissioners were here when Adam Harry was, well, that didn't turn out too good, I don't guess. But nonetheless, commissioners hired Adam for $80,000, to go be the budget officer. Well, it didn't work out, but nonetheless. And so, but the rest of these left, except maybe one or 2. It's strictly because they wanted to make more money. And so, well, I started backing off and hiring people that either didn't have a degree or didn't have a business degree, trying to cut. And also, I would take money from other positions and put it in this particular position. So that is one reason the position is well over the midpoint, is because I've taken money out of other positions into the office and put it in this position. Well, I've been wrestling this for about 22 years, but it's going to come a time when the county is going to need somebody in this position that can handle the work. And actually, Danielle is there right now. Really, the only thing that she's being trained on presently is investments and bail bond. She's preparing the investment reports now, and it's just really mostly about getting a comfort level with it. Is all really that she needs to work on there, and so yeah, that's my big concern, is to stop this turnover, and so that's now I think I showed you the there's only one A28. That's what you put it at yesterday. I'm thinking it needs to be an A31, but I don't know if that if that's possible today or not. I will tell you my biggest priority today is going to be the job title, and so but I certainly would like a fair pay grade as well. Now, in looking at job titles, I just went out and contacted a bunch of county treasurers. Oh, there is one other thing I need to show you on this pay grade. It's real important. I went in and I contacted all of the counties that were in the HR list of peer counties I got the treasurer to send me the information on the pay for their assistants and for the treasurer. And so now I also went a step further after that. I heard some discussion about, well, are these peer counties really a true comparable? You know, how do they stack up to McLennan County? So I went and got all the elected official salaries, not all of them, but treasurer, commissioners high, commissioner low, county clerk, district clerk, and tax assessor. Well, the county average is on this line right here, and you can see where McLennan County is by comparison. If McLennan County is less, it's a negative. If McLennan County is more, it's a positive. And I think that those salaries actually line up really well with the averages for McLennan County. So if it adds up really well for the elected official, it ought to also apply to the chief deputy. And so, well, here's the chief deputy figure. It shows that the average for the chief deputy is $68,564.49. Well, that's about $11,000 more than this position is budgeted for presently. Okay, I went another step and I said, well, you know, these positions, sometimes they have different duties and that sort of thing, so I took it as a percentage. So the chief deputy is a percentage of the treasurer's salary, and I figured the average percent, well, it came out about the same. It was, it's down here where I have the cursor now, it's $68,684.09, that's the average. And and also, if you line that up to the A31, you find out that the A31 is only just a little bit less. And even going down to the minimum percent up here at the top, well, A31's minimum lines up pretty close. Now the maximum does not. The maximum for the treasurers is quite a bit higher than the maximum for the A31. But anyway, I'm just saying that this A31 lines up really well for the chief deputy position, taking into consideration the averages in these peer counties. And so that's the other reason that I wanted to show you how I came up with that A31. And so are there any questions so far?
No. Is there any questions anybody have?
I do, and I want to apologize. I had to leave yesterday, so I didn't hear the full discussion yesterday. So I hope I'm not being redundant on what you all have already discussed. But what I'm noticing is that you're asking me to look at a classification and a salary based on salary comparisons. Did you get a chance to send us exactly the responsibilities of?
I have that right here. Now I don't know if y'all can save this or how you go about it, but
and I can tell you the reason I'm asking. And one thing I don't like is when we bring in a position that we're looking at upgrading or modifying it, and then we base it on existing positions, comparing that this new position is better and above. So I just don't even feed into that train of thought. I'd like to see the position isolated by itself, because on its own, it's either a 32 or it's not. Based on what it would do and based on what HR says those responsibilities weigh.
Well, this is the list of duties in the treasurer's office that I put on the county's website. And I have that square bracket there. Those duties that are within that square bracket are the duties that the chief deputy needs to know how to perform, which is just about all of them. And so in addition to supervising the office. And so it takes several years to learn it. And so we don't, you get a lot of turnover, you get a lot of, you've got to have a person and a backup for all of these duties that require a long time to learn. And so you need to limit your turnover. And so those are the duties that I have on the screen. I'm happy to send it to you, if you would like that, certainly.
Did HR get a chance to look at those and give you an analysis?
Yes.
Okay, what did HR say?
Okay,
We're going to come back to that later, Judge?
well, no, I guess one thing to clarify, what Bill is asking, one is the title, and the other one is consideration of the pay grade change, but he understands that there's not going to be any increase, any salary adjustments for this year, but he's just trying to get it set to conform with what other department elected officials and department heads, not department heads, but elected officials, and have their assistants. So a chief deputy treasurer is what he's looking for, I think, on the title. And then the other is the grade. And he makes a good case, but I wanted him, are you pretty much done, Bill? And then we'll ask Amanda to address these.
Yeah, now I'm not done with the title, but I am done with the pay grade.
Okay.
Title,
So, I mean, I thought I understood you say that the title should be chief deputy and treasury.
deputy treasurer, but I don't remember having discussed it. The thing is that we've got a count of one now. There's not a county in the state of Texas, I'm pretty sure, that has a count of one as their top position.
Yeah.
They're either deputy treasurer, first assistant, chief deputy. There's actually a statute that talks about deputizing, and also there's a statute that talks about assistants. That's where they get those names. This is the top person in my office. She supervises the staff. She does everything that any chief deputy in McLennan County does. And why would you call it something else? I just am at a loss. HR earlier on had recommended something else. The last I read an email from her was that she was okay with chief deputy. I hope that's still the case.
Okay, thank you. So Amanda, you want to address these? And I guess the separately title is one issue, and pay grade is the other one.
Sure thing, Judge. With regard to the title, I presented the title yesterday. I just failed to request a decision from the court related to the title. Human Resources is supportive of that title change.
Okay. All right, we got that out of the way. Okay, so next would be the pay grade.
Correct. So with regard to the pay grade change, I'm going to share my screen. This is the particular job description that was posted at the time that I arrived at the county. You see August 6, 2012 is the date. This position was originally classified as a B9. Some of the reasons I believe the classification landed in the B9 is related to the educational requirements and the years of experience requirements affiliated with the position, which you can see in this original description down here in education, skills, and experience. The position does place a preference for having the degree, but it does not require the degree. Bill provided a presentation to you with regard to the history of the individuals he's had in the position and what their degree related to. Currently, with regard to the position, we've made some revisions because Bill has been extremely helpful to us in trying to clarify some of the duties and responsibilities of this role. So we've modified the job description, as you can see here. And with regard to education, we are staying fairly consistent to the requirements that were presented back in 2012. And again, this position was in a pay grade of a B9 prior to my arrival with the county. The years of experience hasn't really changed. The education has not changed to that original position description. So with regard to the pay grade B or a pay grade A, the difference between those is the exemption status. We were able to classify the position. It was able to meet the parameters of an exemption classification based on the fact that this position is a personal service appointed to by an elected official serving an elected official. So we found an exemption ruling we could utilize to classify this position as exempt. Once the position is determined to be either non-exempt or exempt, then you go through the water survey tool of questionnaire that acquires information related to the position description about that role. So the A is exempt status, the pay grade B is the non-exempt status. So now that we've met the exemption criteria, we're utilizing the water's compensation tool to assess an exempt level position. That particular tool utilizes knowledge and experience as some, not all, of the criteria in capturing what level of points is accredited to the position role of responsibilities, and then based on the overall total of those points determines the pay grade for the position. Because this position is not requiring that of higher level of education and or higher level experience or both, we are not able to get the points to align for this position to be at a higher pay grade classification. I know Bill has referenced other positions in the county that are in the pay grade A classification that are defined as exempt level positions. He mentioned that nurse position is the only one at a A28, but the majority of these other positions require 7+ years of experience or require a combination of the degree with experience or some form of licensing plus experience. In this particular case, and some of Bill's instances of hiring for this role, he has been adhering to those original job descriptions from 2012 with regard to the level of education he's been requiring and the years of experience he's been requiring for the position, which is what we utilized in doing a compensation assessment for this role, which placed it at the A28.
Amanda, on the other deputies, would they pass this same? Just wondering if they were reviewed today, would they be in the proper category?
It appears that way, sir. Yes. For instance, in the county clerk's office, they recently had some, well, I say recently because it was within my time here at the county of employment, they had some individuals retire from their chief deputy level positions. One of those individuals did not meet the criteria of the original pay grade, which was an A31. So we had to present that information to the court, and the court approved changing one of those positions to an A30 because the individual wasn't quite there to meet the criteria of the original position. So the years of experience and education were a factor in that pay grade change. So we have been adhering to this to the best of my knowledge.
And you're saying the years of experience, or would you say 7 years?
In most cases, yes, sir, or
Well,
more.
They're not staying in that position 7 years is the problem. It's demanding.
That is a problem for Bill, and I am concerned about that on Bill's behalf for his operational needs.
Tax office, the vacancy announcement for the tax office, I'm not sure exactly what it said 4 or 5 years. It didn't say 7. It had figures of 4 and 5 years as a substitution for certain experience.
So typically,
business related and of degree, minimum 4 years experience in related role plus the required years of experience listed below. 5 years experience in an accounting office manager, closely related field that includes lead work or supervisory duties. What happens if you don't get an application that has those, those requirements? But anyway, it is 4 and 5. And I'm looking at the vacancy announcement, and so I can't hire somebody that we can't pay, and it's a serious problem, and it needs to get fixed really soon. And so I think that my solution that I have recommended, because you have somebody classified as an A31 doesn't mean you have to pay them at the midpoint or above the midpoint or whatever of an A31. But I'm going to tell you, in this position, if we don't pay somebody $65,000 a year that knows it all, they're going to leave eventually, because that's really what I think the market is for that position outside of this. Just speaking from personal experience, outside of this job, I know one of the people that left went to work for the city of Waco, and she went to work in the 60s several years ago for $60-something thousand a year. She said that she expected to be making $70 soon. So I'm pretty sure she's past that now. And so can't compete with that. Now, she had a business degree, but my current chief deputy has a master's degree, and so she's got a lot of potential. She has a bachelor's and a master's. So if you want to keep somebody, you got to pay them.
Okay.
The path I had worked out with an A31, it's not going to cost the county anything this year. And my new person is new in the position, fairly new, September, and so she was here. She's been here for 4 years. Was here 4 years in April. She's working on her 5th year, so she's got the experience. But it's just that there is a lot here to learn. And I'll tell you something else. I don't know how to do it. I've been here for 22 years. And there are jobs in this office I don't know how to do. The rule is you have a person and a backup for every job. That's the important rule. You got to have a person and a backup. And that's what I'm shooting for, all the way around. So
Okay.
can't do it if people keep moving on. So
Any questions?
y'all will.
Any questions from the commissioners to Bill or Amanda? Okay. All right. We will we'll move on, and then before this is over with, we'll come up with a decision of the court.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks much.
All right. What's next?
Okay, so we'll come back to these too. In the general fund, Department 7890 is economic development. Okay, he's going to pull them up as well. So one of the items we said we would come back to is the Greater Waco Chamber of Commerce line item. So the request was to increase the funding amount by $34,500. And Chris Collins spoke on that request last week.
Right. Update on that is yesterday, the city of Waco approved increasing 10,000 from, I guess, 165 to 175. What was the old contract?
The old amount was 165.
Yeah, 165. And so they approved $10,000 increases if we would match that amount. And so that's the current request on that.
And to make it clear, it's a coincidence that the amount budgeted currently is 175. That included the 165 plus a $10,000 amount for the software, the
Right.
economic impact.
Right.
So tell me what y'all feel, but we would increase then if we match the city to 185
Yeah.
for next year.
Okay. What's the thoughts on that?
10,000 increase?
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Any thoughts on that?
Well, like I said before, I think they do a good job, but this is not the year to increase any line items. We've got to hold the line.
I'm okay with the 10,000.
I'm fine with the 10,000.
Okay. Commissioner Miller, you want to weigh in on it, just for the record?
I'm fine with the 10,000.
Okay,
So we will increase that line item to the 185.
right.
The Equestrian National Championship, we received some information from Nancy Post with Baylor. And so she just wanted to let you know that their plan is to have the championship again next April of 2021.
Right.
Of course, time will tell, but we decided at one point to go ahead and just put a placeholder there, not knowing if they would have
Yeah,
something next
right.
year. So it's just kind of up to y'all. We can leave the placeholder. If it occurs, we can do a budget amendment to increase that, or we could go ahead and put the 10,000 there now.
Right, and the city also contributes their part too. It's an event's been going on for 12 years, I think. The city and the county went together to make sure that happened here. It was a prestigious deal for the community in Baylor. So we talking about a dollar placeholder, or are we talking about, how did you want to do that, Francis?
They're looking for a commitment of some sort. So I
I'd
think
say-
for their purposes, it might
Yeah.
be good to put the 10,000.
Yeah, okay. Any thoughts on that? It would be to continue what we've done over the last 12 years or so.
I'm good putting it back in.
All right,
It's fine.
I'm good with it. Anybody else?
I'm fine with it.
Okay,
And so then again, in this department, we have the transfer there to Economic Development Fund. Is that something you want to?
yeah, you heard in the meetings that we've had with Chris and some pending announcements that's coming up that there could be a big shift in the amount of money used to bring in companies, plus the efforts that the chamber will go into WebMec with the Industrial Foundation to try to bring in a lot of these companies that are coming back to the U.S. So we think we've got a good opportunity for it. And so what we've done is added $250,000 a year. This year we early on didn't know about a lot of these announcements are going to be made, and just because of not knowing what our financial situation was going to be, we left it at what it was last year, $2,500,000 apiece. And so, but now the economic development community is asking if we could increase that up to, it'd be $2,750,000 for the city and $2,750,000 for the county. The city approved theirs yesterday, and so. What's your thoughts on the increase? And that, just to set the record, I would say we should do it because it's if the money's not spent, it's still ours. It's part of the assets of the taxpayers, and when it's used, it's not an expense; it's an investment. So, Mr. Perry, you got or any comment?
I still want to see, that's a chunk right now, so I still want to see where we come in. I'm committed to giving it either way. If it's needed, whether it's in the Economic Development Fund or our general fund, I'm committed to, if we have to draw that out, we get it out. But I would prefer to see, again, I want to see a final budget and kind of where we're at. What do we have? Are we Are we going to stay below the penny? I mean, that's very important to me to honor that penny cut. And, you know, we got Major Armstrong was in here, and he's, you know, he's got my attention on a few of those positions. So I'm still wanting to see a more firm number.
Okay, so if we get the question answered on the sheriff's department, we've also got the incentive, we have to approve, final approval on it. Everybody went,
Incentive pay for next year.
Yeah.
So we have an amount plugged in for incentive pay.
Yeah.
You know, if you decide
so,
not to fund it or not to go through.
no, I guess what other expense items do we need to get clarified for you to where we can create that, where we're gonna be?
Yeah, we're
in
right
the preliminary.
there. I just need to know if you want to add any of those sheriff's office positions today
Okay.
that were discussed.
All right,
And then I just have two short things on capital outlay. They're already in there. It's just, I just needed some more formal direction to make sure we're all on the same page. And then we'll
Okay.
go back to our summary and then
okay,
start from there.
Perfect, because then it would help me make my
Yeah,
decision
sure.
on the personnel, on economic
Right.
development.
So
I have a question about the projects that we heard. What is going to be the funds available to commit to projects? What's that amount going to be after? So I don't see Project Diane in here under the last set of WEDMAC financials. I don't think I'm.
because it's not committed yet. As you might recall, there's some, I gotta be careful because we're under
Right.
confidentiality agreement, but there's some expenses that have to be covered for that to happen, and it's gonna have to come out of WEDMAC dollars, and the engineers are working on that number right now.
Okay, so there's not an estimate of what that commitment's going to be.
Yeah. Well, there's
Can we get an estimate?
My internet, I guess, is.
Can we get an estimate from them on what the balance will be if they fund everything they've got in the pipeline right now?
okay, well, that you can get because I think it'll be pretty much out of money. I'll see what I can get.
It
And I'm-
included the 5 million that will go in.
Right.
And then the other thing is, I'm like, Ben, I'd like to see a final picture because I know what they do is good. But if we're trying to keep our fund balance as high as we've been keeping it, I think this is the year if we need to reduce it some to hit some of these spots. We could always use some of that money to fund it if it come about, because I think we need to keep it as tight as possible this year.
Okay, well, why don't we try to get these questions that Francis has got here answered, and in the meantime, Dustin, if you would see if you can back into those numbers from Chris or Seth over there.
So going to Department 7920 capital outlay, these are two items we've talked about briefly here and there, but just didn't get a consensus on either. 19th District Court is in need of some stenograph software upgrade or equipment upgrades. They're still waiting on some information and exactly what's going to be needed for next year for the court reporters. So 10,000 is the estimate of what upgrades for both court reporters would be. So, you know, of course, that number may be a little bit different, but that's an estimate right now. So I wanted to see what you felt about that. And then Constable Strickland is requesting a patrol vehicle. You've added these for the last few years. He cut all of his travel reimbursement to his employees for the most part for using their own vehicles for those purposes. And then we've gone to this method. So, but you do have to approve it, of course, each year.
Was Strickland needing to come back in here?
His ask was pretty much the same. He said, I've asked for it. Well, I think we funded it for 4 years in a row now.
Itself, I think so.
So-
But, and there wasn't any personnel stuff.
No, he had a personnel spot and a vehicle with that spot. He canceled both of those, but
Yeah.
he still had a vehicle.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that. That's what we've been doing.
Okay. And with the court reporter equipment as well.
Yeah, but do you have an idea what the court reporter equipment would be? How much?
It would be around $10,000
Okay.
to upgrade both because they have two court reporters in that.
All right, y'all all right with that?
I don't have an issue with either.
Okay.
I'm okay with the court reporter equipment.
Does he take a car out?
Yeah.
Good question.
What do you mean take it down?
Does he bringing one in? Is he cycling one out? It's got higher mileage. That's a good question. I'm not sure.
Well, he's going to auction with a Fairlane 500, a Galaxy or whatever it is. I don't know what's
A Ford Fairlane.
Ford
You might be
Fairlane.
showing your age a little bit.
It may be an Edsel. It could be an Edsel. I'm not sure.
I think on
Crown
yesterday's.
Victoria?
I
think that might be
a
it, Commissioner.
The sheriff's office was auctioning off a Ford Explorer,
Yeah, and
and
then
he's grabbing that to not go to auction and take, and then one of his older Crown Victorias is
Crown
going to
Victoria.
auction.
Yeah,
Yes.
Crown Victoria. Thank you.
So that occurred yesterday.
Okay.
So any other thoughts on those items?
I'm like I said, I'm okay with it. It's what he's been doing.
That's fine.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll go back to our main summary. So this is gonna, again, like we looked at each day as we've added or eliminated items in the budget. It's gonna walk you through if you were looking at going a penny below the no new revenue rate. So you will see that your total tax rate would be that 0.468250. So that shows you there your beginning fund balance of almost that 47 million. Your estimated revenues for next year based on that penny below the no new revenue rate. Your department expenditures of 120 million. And then below that line are some things that, we'll go in and spread out to all departments. But there was requested new personnel that you've already said yes to, and that's the 650,000, the 1% COLA. And then we're going to add some to contingencies for JP positions if needed. So all of those items, everything up to this point, that brings you to an ending fund balance of 40,534,000.
Okay, does that have the deputies in there that just came back in?
No. So what we could do
So-
now is then, add in,
Okay.
if you wanted to approve those
Well,
items they talked
let's
about.
put them in here, and I think where the commissioners want to see is if we did that. In other words, they could be making a decision on this and economic development and all that based on where we're going to be. So,
I
Put
think
'em
that's what we
in.
want to do.
pardon me?
I think that's what we want to do.
Yeah, and so.
Load it and then look at it.
Yeah, load it and look at it, yeah.
So we'll just give us 1 second and we'll plug in that number so you can just see how that affects the bottom
Good.
line.
Thank
And
you.
for instance, just what she's doing as well, as soon as I get over to my office to get my email to get to you, we'll be cutting right a little over 200,000 out of our budget.
Yes. And so that, of course, is not in there yet. So that makes, the ending result even better.
That's a great, I wish others could do the same.
Buy now. That's,
Yeah.
buy it while you can. But we'll be getting with you on a budget amendment too. So we're going to move a piece of equipment into this year.
So it would come out of your capital outlay.
Yes, sir. It's actually going to come out of my contingency. Move it into capital outlay to get it purchased and get it off the 2020 budget request or 20.
But would it come out of the 2021 capital outlay?
Correct. It'll be subtracted from that.
So just looking at those, I believe it was 5 positions that they spoke on today. If you approved all of those, fully funded with taxes and benefits and equipment and all the good stuff, you would come to that number. Yeah, the total was $382,000 for those positions. And then that would bring you to an ending fund balance of $40,151,000. That's 33.5% of operating expenditures. So you would meet your 33% fund balance goal. That number off to the side, the 606, that's the number, that's the difference in your target fund balance and where we're at right now. So,
And on economic development, it's, if you added the 250,000, what would it drive that number?
gotcha. Yes. And then, Commissioner Perry just spoke on some cuts that he'll make to his budget as well, that we can load in when we have those.
Bless you.
Does that number also include the pay increases that we did? That number takes in all the personnel increases that we did, new hires and
Yes.
increases? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Anything that y'all have let me know you're good with up to this point.
Okay.
So then Haley's plugged in there the additional 250,000 for economic development. So then you'll see that again brings you to the 39.9 million ending fund balance, 33.2% of operating expenditures.
And the 200 that Ben just did it's not added back?
No,
to
it's
it?
not, just not knowing what those will be yet.
Okay. So you don't trust him, and so you're not gonna put it in there until he sends you something.
I don't blame her.
He's a sneak.
And going back to, talking about in this scenario, this is using a penny less than the no new revenue rate. That was the preliminary no new revenue rate. So by the end of this week, we will have the certified values, and then those rates will be recalculated on those. I don't anticipate much change, but it, could change by a fraction of a penny there. But it should still, your actual revenue should still be fairly consistent. So.
So we're going to end up, if I follow through, which I promise you I will, around $500,000 over the 33%.
And we can plug that in. You said about 200.
Yeah, just put 2. It's going to be a little over, but just put 2 in.
So like you said, brings it up close to.
Just so Will doesn't, you think you're taking it from his, that's 4.
Oh, really?
Hey, watch it. Hey, that's
Thank you,
not
Will.
fair.
So we pulled a smooth one here.
We're all gonna sign a card and send it to you.
Wasn't me. Wasn't me.
So there you go. And it's right over 40 million ending fund balance, 33.5% operating expenditures. That's looking at if we collected only those revenues we estimated and you spent every single penny that was budgeted. We're always, for the most part, going to come under budget so that you have that to take into consideration as well.
Okay.
If this holds, I'm good with this. We've accomplished our goals. What we set out when we started, we wanted to. In fact,
And
I
we
think
get-
we've done better. We said no new revenue rate. We've done better than that.
And we're gonna bank our cap. We'll bank
The 3.5.
3.5% cap in the
That's
next
correct.
year. It gives us.
Yes. So if you go no new revenue rate or below, then yes, you would bank the 3.5%. So next year, your voter approval rate would be based on a 7%
Yeah.
increase.
Right, without going, which we shouldn't need it. I mean, if, real estate sales keep blowing on like they're going right now, we'll be all right. But
Yes, sir.
something, this deal's not over with either. I realize that.
I worry more about next year, what it's gonna look like next year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so I could do, you could take another third of a cent off there and be at your goal. So, but that's splitting hairs. I mean, if you,
Right, and there
I
could be.
mean,
a
if you
couple-
want, I mean, so.
I think anything we can do, a third of a cent or whatever we can do to help them. I just kind of wonder myself, how much that revenue we're going to get and how many people are actually going to be able to afford to pay their taxes when it comes to businesses and some of the homeowners.
If it's not a 98% collection rate, we might be.
And that's where,
Well-
if you look forward and you say, okay, we don't collect as much revenue as we estimated. However, we're under budget by this amount, those amounts,
Right,
can kind of wash each other out.
right.
Francis, what do you estimate that will come under budget this year? You
It's
said
close to 8 million.
8,
Yes, sir.
and it kind of between 8 and 10 every year.
It's usually between 6 and 8, I think.
6 and 8.
Probably a good estimate.
And Commissioner Jones, quite honestly, I'm somewhat agreeable. Let's see what the certified numbers look like. But I mean, we're sitting at 33%. There's nothing wrong with taking that whatever percent, if it's a 0.5% or whatever it is, and looking at adding it to the tax decrease.
Do you see any other expenses showing up that we hadn't thought about?
Before we adopt
Yeah.
everything. I don't. I don't think of any. I can't think of anything right now that would really change these numbers very much either way.
And just for the record, I support the economic development because we're not giving the money unless they need it. So that's still our money. I don't support any of the new positions because I think we need to go without increasing the load on the taxpayer again this year. But I do support if we can do anything to lower it below that 1%, anything that we can come up with, that would be great.
Got answer back on, from Chris that, with two major projects, depending on what this Diana, they should get the numbers back pretty quick, but we would be at zero, at the time those are, funded.
And those two are guaranteed to go, correct?
Well,
So next year at this time, we're going to have 500,000 in that account.
They've already started work on Diana,
yeah,
and it's my understanding that that Diana is in touch with the AGC about getting bids. So,
yeah, that's right.
and what that sounds like a done deal, doesn't it?
Yeah,
If that was just basically some infrastructure and street improvements and signal lights. But I'm okay putting the 250 in there because like I say, if we don't need it, we don't need it. It's still ours.
okay.
I just don't support the new positions.
Understand that.
I think for the most part, it's a smart budget. I agree with Commissioner Jones on that 33.5%. Anything we can give back to the taxpayers as far as a tax decrease, I support. On the new positions, I stand behind my consent to the sheriff's office. I think everything that they presented as far as safeguarding that jail, especially under COVID-19, I see that as imperative, and I support the HR position. I just hope we don't landlock it where she can't utilize it to its fullest. Increases outside of what we needed to address for the current urgent situation, I think could have waited till next year. But I do support what the sheriff's office wants to do as far as their personnel and how they need to undergirded, especially during COVID-19, and I support what HR is trying to do.
Okay. Consensus.
Hey, Francis, could you, or Haley, could you subtract 0.003 from, and just show everybody what it does?
It gets it right at that exact 33%. So, if that's what
But
y'all,
I agree with Commissioner Perry. Let's wait and see what our value comes back. When will you have that? Friday?
by Friday, yes, sir.
But this is our goal. I mean, this is what we work towards.
We can make that decision on Tuesday, but yeah, to me, that's our, I'm good with everything here. I think we've accomplished a lot with this budget.
So we will, take those amounts that we have under those additional items, and we'll spread those through the budget and, check all the calculations, do all those things. And then we'll have the certified values. And then when we come in here Tuesday, we'll figure out exactly, like Commissioner Jones says, bring it down by 0.3 cents to get back to the 33%. So we'll have that ready to go. And then on Tuesday, if y'all are good with everything up to this point and someone can propose a rate,
Okay.
we can move forward.
Okay, dope.
And then if you end up proposing the no new revenue rate or anything below, you do not have to have a tax rate hearing. So that'll cut one of the meetings that we already had scheduled in August. Also on Tuesday, so we'll file the proposed budget. We'll send out the elected official compensation letters. So that'll start the grievance process. But then through the month of August, we'll just meet as y'all request it. And we have 2 regular agendas. So if we wanted to, add I think we usually have it anyway, but have budget meetings attached to each of those. If there's anything that y'all need to revisit before August is out, we can get to those then. And then we'll adopt the last Tuesday in August.
Okay. Amanda, did you have anything else, or Dustin?
Judge, there
Yes,
is
sir,
one. Go ahead, Amanda. It's the same thing, I know.
Sorry. We have had communications recently, and I know this has been a topic of discussion in the past from varying court members, but we've had discussions with Patty Houston. She's the Waco Employer Relations Specialist who's in charge of really trying to create internship programs in the community to try and not only get our local schools some experience in the industry, but also try and create avenues of which they can gain experience and end up being employed in our county. And so it's a really good program. It's wonderful to see the results of it. It's wonderful to see that we're able to keep and sustain those students into our community as community members. And I know we've had a lot of concerns about a budget and constraints there, and I certainly understand our economic situations and our constituents' economic situations during this time. So I was going to propose maybe putting a dollar placeholder somewhere in a line item, and maybe the court can revisit about this at the end of this calendar year, hoping the spring looks to be a different situation for everyone, where we could give consideration to this program and provide paid internship opportunities within the county.
I would be okay with a dollar placeholder. I don't know that we'll do it, but it is a really good program. We just kind of got sidetracked with all this COVID-19 stuff, but did anybody have a problem with that? I mean, we're not saying we're doing it. We're just, if something happens next spring where we've got projects or want to take interns and use them to, for the benefit of them and for us, we could consider it. Any other thoughts on that?
Is she connected, Amanda, anyway with that, I think it's Guama, that academy through the Waco Independent School District? I know they had reached out and they wanted some of their students maybe to have internship opportunities. It wasn't paid. They we're going to get course credit. Is she connected in any way with that program also?
I am not aware of that. I'm not sure if Dustin has that knowledge, but I don't recall her sharing that with me specifically in my meetings with her.
Yeah,
Commissioner, I think this
Commissioner,
is more higher education where then looking at some of the stats she'd sent over before, it was Baylor, Tarleton, Tech, Texas Tech, TSTC, and MCC. So it's this is going to be more geared towards higher education.
Oh, those are college systems.
Yes,
Okay,
but-
so Waco ISD reached out to give their kids, I guess, some on-the-job training through that Guama Academy. But I'll talk to you later about that. That's not a budget issue. I know you were looking into workers' comp issues around that. But since we were talking about internship programs, I just wanted to mention that Waco ISD had reached out to us.
okay.
I'm okay with $1 placeholder.
Me too.
Okay. Okay, did we get everything approved on all the adjustments and the incentives and all that?
On the incentive, I'm not sure on that. on
You
the
know,
incentive
it
pay.
was maxed down to 4%, so we had anybody that was affected have the information back to HR. Amanda?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We have received all the information back. I provided it in an email to each of you so that you would have the attachments. I can give an overview of that if you would like, if we want to move. Do we need to move Dustin to that as an agenda item since it was posted on the agenda? Or how do we transition and assist Frances with her topical points?
Yes, it is E3C on the agenda.
Okay, and that's consideration or action on departmental and department head incentive pay request. So the court asked those to go back and make some modifications. Now, that was on the employee side though, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay.
So with regard to the incentive pay, you know, there are several offices that are listed in my memo that provided submissions to either their performance evaluation or their incentive payout workbook post deadline. Because it's post deadline, we would need the court approval to accept their submissions because it's post deadline. We have made that type of particular exception in the past, knowing there are sometimes some difficulties with regard to business schedule, and most offices are pretty close to those deadline submissions. The other thing that we have is the request, and we've done this every year, we've done incentive pay for consideration from the tax office and the sheriff's office, the way that their personnel are divided by funding accounts. So that creates a little bit of a difference in the way their budget works for incentive, because the incentive is paired with those account codes. They would like to pool those account codes together so they could ensure continuity and equity in their disbursement amount to their employees in all of those accounts. And we have done this in the past, but of course it always has to be approved. And then we have a request from the DA's office and a request from Road and Bridge Precinct 3 to allow a transfer of an employee to be taken into consideration with regard to incentive pay. You know, the court would need to decide on that. And per my knowledge, you know, we've never allowed for that in the past. We've been very particular in enforcing that particular item of the incentive pay policy. So that would, if you chose to do that this year, it would veer away from what we've done in past years. And then we have some offices specific to the Constable's Precinct 2. In their particular case, their maximum payout eligibility is within the 2% budget. They had made a request to exceed the maximum payouts, but again, that would veer away from policy. We have never done that in the past. So their submissions are to stay within the 2% allocation and pay out their maximum payout eligibilities. We have the treasurer's office, the engineering office, the 19th District Court, the county judge's office, pretrial services, and purchasing that have made new modifications to their submissions to utilize a 4% allowance in their small office budget. That's an increase to their small office budget to disperse the 4% allocations to their employees. They've provided those submissions. They are within the maximum payout eligibility. So they did not exceed that. So they're within policy. The approval from the court would be to allow them the 4% instead of a 2% budget. And the final one that we have is with regard to the 54th District Court. They had submitted their information timely for the incentive payout workbook. However, they had an employee between now and then that has since retired, and so they want to use their 2% budget allocation and redistribute those funds to the employees that are still within the office to provide that. So that's, we're considering that a late submission. I think that is and then we have the department head incentive pay as well that I've redistributed to all of you, which shows your averages for what you do like dispersed for the department heads. And I think that's everything.
I thought a lot of those decisions had been made yesterday.
No, sir, we would need to take action in open court.
Nothing was actually voted on yesterday, and Amanda and I have worked on a proposed motion that would really just need to become a minute order. But we'll let the court have discussion, and then we can read that into the record.
I have one question, Amanda. On the maximum payout amount per employee, that is based on their evaluation score and their salary, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so no one is going to get 4% if they were going to get a 1 or a 3%, correct? The 4% really applies to people that maybe their score gave them 5%?
Correct.
Okay.
So, Commissioner, I want to be sure that I'm clear, and maybe I'm not. So the 4%, so all offices received a 2% incentive pay allowance related to their budget for incentive pay. There's a couple of offices that had requested an additional amount, and with the court's direction, we went back to those offices and asked them if they could utilize a 4% budget as opposed to a 2% budget. So all of these offices are within the 4% budget in their submissions. None of them exceeded the maximum payout eligibility that the employee was eligible to receive based on their rating.
Okay.
When you ask, okay, I want to be sure I was answering your question correctly. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So Dustin, you have a proposed action?
Yes, sir, and I'll read it. It would be a motion to approve the large office and incentive payout workbook submissions, the department head incentive payout workbook submissions, the revised small office submissions utilizing the 4% allocation, the late submissions of evaluations and incentive pay workbooks, combining the overall incentive pay budgets for the tax office and the sheriff's office, and the 54th District Court's request to change the distribution after the deadline. And it would also deny any other request that was outside of policy, including those employees who transferred or for payouts above the maximum amount allowed. And we would also need to specify a payment date for this as well.
So what's the recommended payment date?
Related to that, I would like input from the auditor's office. This is a joint effort from both of our teams to be able to process these submissions, have them audited, and then it also requires effort on the treasurer's office to disperse this in paychecks. Francis, and I don't know if Bill's still on the line or not, but we are thinking we would be able to have that ready for payment disbursement on August 14th is the soonest Human Resources would be comfortable. But, you know, alternate dates obviously would be between now and the end of the fiscal year, which the payout dates would be either August 28th, September 11th, or September 25th.
So we're prepared to process or help audit and process that payroll for the August 14th pay date.
Okay. Is that all right with everybody? August 14th?
Sounds good.
Okay, so I guess we can, so we'll entertain adoption of that motion in a second. Is there a motion to approve the minute order just read?
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay, motion made and second. Any other discussion? No other discussion, call for a vote.
Commissioner Snell,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Judge Felton,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones, Commissioner Perry.
Aye.
Pass. What else?
I have an update for the court, if the court would be willing to entertain. Randy McGraw was able to work with his analytics partner and provide us an update from the request that Commissioner Snell had to really hone into the number of individuals that have been utilizing the urgent care and emergency room services that are under age 18, to take into consideration the insurance committee's recommendation to do a $0 copay for those under 18 in the base plan. And I've submitted that information to each of you. I can present that in the screen. In Randy's comments, based on these numbers, he said that really shows that this is a good recommendation for the court and a good change to our plan. Do you need me to pull that up, or is that something you were all able to look at?
What do y'all want?
I haven't had a chance to look at it, but I can look at it by Monday or Tuesday.
I haven't seen it yet either.
So just to add something to what Randy is said in there and is important. If we catch half of these, emergency room visits, it's a break-even proposition. So I think it's a worthy idea.
Good.
I put the chart up for everyone to be able to view. Is this something the court would like more consideration on and we revisit, or is this something the court feels that we could move forward in incorporating in our benefit program related to the health plan specific to the base plan?
Well, what's your recommendation?
I'd recommend that we doing this. I think it's this was analysis done by this recommendation comes from United Healthcare, and so you know they know they have a lot of insured lives, and they they know how to, I mean, they know the trends and things like that.
Yeah.
Data. Does that make sense?
Yeah, great, thank you.
And if the court wants to act, that's under N7B, the discussion or action regarding the premium, county contribution amounts, plan enhancements, and auxiliary insurance coverages.
Okay, N7B.
And it was specific to the $0 copay for kids program. Is that correct, Commissioner? Or
Yeah, I mean, is that, I'm trying to, I was
We
hoping.
took action yesterday in court to approve everything else that was affiliated with those plan enhancements. This was the only piece that was still in question.
So I'd make a motion that we make this change to our plan documents.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
We got a second, any discussion? No discussion, call for a vote.
Commissioner Snell,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Judge Felton,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Perry.
Aye.
Pass. What else?
The only other item I have is with regard to Bill's request in the title change for his position. And then I refer back to the court or to Francis and any other items outside of that.
Well, I've read some of the email streams and all that. I mean, it seems like a reasonable request as far as the title is concerned. I think the bigger discussion is more about the grade classification. He makes a good point. Amanda, I know y'all done a lot of research on it. Is there any give in this deal or any middle ground or? I mean, I'm suspicious that the turnover is because it's not paying somebody doing that kind of very much detailed work can get paid more doing it somewhere else is what it looks like. I mean, if somebody can argue that different.
I think the complexity of some of the duties Bill has warrants a need for a higher level of education and or more years of experience applicable to the position. However, he has always liked having the flexibility of being able to hire someone who does not necessarily have those things, as he shared with you, but that's not really solving his problem. And human resources is really struggling with the appropriate ways to create a solution for his retention issues and still allowing him the flexibility of hiring those that don't meet the requirements of an A31 pay grade. So I don't know if we need to dig deeper into that and have some further discussions offline to brainstorm solutions, but he definitely has a very valid retention concern.
Well, the fact of it is he doesn't have an opening. He's got a person already in there. The job requirements are to try to frame up the kind of person you want in a job, and the salary is to keep them there. If they're in there and they're doing the job, you forget about what kind of education they have as long as they're doing the job. So if she's doing the job at the level of, someone with a higher education, then I would give her a lot of credit for that. So I'm more interested now if she is as capable as Bill says, which I have no doubt, then let's keep her. And so if that means accommodate it to move it to an A31, I mean, I haven't heard a really good argument about why we shouldn't do that, but I'm all ears, as you say.
So if I could interrupt just briefly, the the position classifications are not based on who is in the position. It is based on the duties, responsibilities, requirements necessary of anybody to fill that position. So it is not focused on the specific person and what the person brings to that position. It's focused on varying levels of responsibility in the role, the knowledge and experience required to perform the role. Those sorts of things is what determines the pay grade, and the pay grade creates a range of pay for which to consider someone in that job. So those that would have, and she's within the range for the B9, which is what it was originally classified at. And again, there hasn't been really enough changes to the position requirements to create a change from the B9. However, we were able to create the change because of the exemption status.
What I would like to see, and I look at that position in the treasurer's office like I would look at any requests from any other department, and that's why I kind of veer away from we give someone a classification or a title because they like the ring to it. I remember when an elected official came into our office several years back, and he wanted his chief deputy paid what the sheriff's office chief deputy was paid because they were both called chief deputies. So it can get ludicrous and asinine if we don't look at a position for exactly what is it doing, what's being requested of that position. And so that's how you classify it. Any elected official or department head we would bring in here, they would say the same thing about their people. And so that's why I lean on HR to just scientifically tell us what is it that this position should be called, how should it be classified, and how should it be paid. And then no one can say that you're not being fair if you're just being truly scientific with the approach to it. Because when you start getting subjective on it, we'll have requests year after year where they just come up with titles. And that used to be the problem. That's why they did the water study. Just come up with titles, just come up with names and come up with amounts because they like the person in there. I knew everyone he had on that list. I knew Philip. He hadn't hired another Philip since Philip's been gone. And I worked with Adam Harry. He hadn't hired another Adam Harry since Adam's been gone. But I do know the young lady in that position, and she seems to be good. But I would not veer away from what HR is saying, because then how can I look at another department head and hold them to the same standard?
No matter
And I
how
think
good they're doing the job.
I beg your pardon?
I said, no matter how good they're doing at the job.
No, I would think that how good they're doing at the job would play into the assessment that HR gives them.
But
I think, oh, sorry, Judge, I was just going to try and answer your question. I think in relation to the performance level that they're carrying into the job, some of that could be attributed to the budget that is determined for that position. And, you know, he does have somebody with a master's degree in that role. She is doing an excellent job with regard to her performance. He's consistently evaluated her in a high score. She's a great partner to work with. And we do work with her on a weekly, daily basis. So I'm not questioning those things. I'm literally questioning what the position requirements, you know, are in relation to what a A31 classification is versus that of the A28. And at the time, his requirements for the role do not advocate changing to an A31. However, I do think he has valid concerns for retention that should be given into consideration related to his budget. But this year, that, to my knowledge, has not been considered for any office that has requested a budget increase. And I do think adjusting the budget for his office may assist him in that retention issue. I don't know.
Am I allowed to speak? I'm still here. I would like to address some of the things I'm hearing. I'm hearing generalities. I'm not hearing specifics. I hear you say that, well, the job is not equivalent to an existing A31, but no, I've not heard yet why it's not equivalent to an A31. I can pitch up the record where it shows that she's completed her full semester of college with Microsoft Access. I can show you these databases that she maintains that nobody else in the county can do except me at this point. And I realized that when I got into this, but I had jobs that had to get done. I didn't know of any other way that they could be done. And as a matter of fact, there are jobs that I do that can't be done any other way. But okay, I'm just saying and you're kind of like trying to match apples to oranges to some extent. I just showed you a list of the jobs that she does. I have not seen a list from any other job that you're saying is in some way superior. I do not find those jobs to be superior. I have read the vacancy announcements, the job descriptions. All I see is an occasional thing of team builder or something like this. You just can't. What does it mean even? I've got what we have is hard performance. You either know how to do it or you don't. And so it's I just feel like it's someone's opinion, you know. And if you want to get down to it, we'll go for it. I mean, I just gave you a list. Find somebody else in the county that can do that or do this stuff. There isn't anybody. So, I mean, we've trained the people in this office to do it, but everybody else is doing something else. They're not doing this. There may be some overlap in what we do with some other office, to the extent that they do some banking related work, you know, transferring, reconciling, that sort of thing. But I don't ever find anything that anybody's doing to be more complex. Show me something. I've handed you, I can email it to everybody. It's actually on the website, the duties. That's what we do. And as a matter of fact, I got this from Benton County, primarily. Now, I didn't copy there verbatim, but I looked at it and I said, well, yeah, that's basically the same thing we do. So that's where it started. And so, anyway, yeah, why are we talking in generalities and coming to conclusions on the basis of generalities? That's what I don't get.
Okay. All right. Well, this really for right now is not a budget impact. It's more discussion on policy and guidelines. So I'd like to defer the discussion till later and let the commissioners think about it. If there's some exception that they'd vote on, if not, then we won't. So, all right, what else, Francis?
Nothing.
Anything
for
else?
today. So I'll see you all back on Tuesday.
Okay. Anything else from the court? All right, thank you. We stand adjourned.